Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And we're just two lonely nerds in our beat-up Cadillac driving through space, lost. Don't know where the hell we are.
It's a Winnebago, actually. This is Spaceballs.
Oh my god, it would be. Yes. Yes, I love that. All right, so a really cool thing happened to me the other day. Before I tell you, I want to remind everyone to like this video and subscribe because it really helps out. We want to be famous Star Wars nerds, so you guys can help. But the cool thing on my way to becoming a famous Star Wars nerd was that I was invited to write an article for Small Screen, which is a UK online magazine.
We'll put a link to it somewhere in the description or something.
And so I wrote it about a supposed leak of The Rise of Skywalker and pretty much how the whole thing is bullshit. And
is this that Jedi Paxis shit?
Yes.
God damn it.
Yeah, so we made a video, another video that you didn't participate under protest, and then I wrote an article about it as well. So a guy messaged me on Facebook after that article and said, hey, I read your article, and I run a Star Wars group on Facebook that has everything to do with like anti-clickbait, you know, like that, I guess. Like it's they kind of reject the whole supposed leaks or, you know. He offered to make me a mod and told me I could post our content on there whenever, which I thought was a dangerous thing because I'm a mod and now I can delete the whole thing if I want to. Not that I would, but also I'll just...
Because you could spam the shit out of that page.
I won't though, because they really do. The entire community seems really neat. They seem really interested in having good discussions about Star Wars. So
as all good thinking people should.
Yeah. So I gave them... I posted today in the group and asked them to ask us some questions about Star Wars. So I figured we'd give that page called Star Wars Veritas a shout out and then read some of these questions because they're good.
We're also going to have a link to them in the video description.
Yeah, we'll put it up there. Okay, so the first question comes from David and asks, what is your dream TV series to see from Disney Plus other than the ones that are already announced?
So my first thought is that I want to see some stuff that happens around the new trilogy. Because we have a pretty basic idea of what happens from the prequels forward. Yeah. But we don't really know what's happening like after Return of the Jedi. Or at least we haven't seen it.
Did you steal my idea?
Maybe.
Well, what is it?
So my first idea is the adventures of Luke's new Jedi Order.
You son of a bitch. That's fine. I can see why you'd pick that.
Yeah, like his Jedi Order or his Academy or whatever form it took before Ben burned it all down.
So would you recast young Luke Skywalker?
I think you have to. I mean, I love Mark Hamill, but he's not really in shape to reprise that role 30 years ago.
Well, I mean, Sam Jackson did Nick Fury in the Captain Marvel movie, and they did some pretty impressive de-aging stuff on him. I think I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think I would recast him as well. And I think that Sebastian Stan would be an amazing Luke Skywalker if you follow the Marvel universe at all. He's the one that plays Bucky Barnes.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, with trying to imagine without the long hair. I'll show you a picture. Yeah. There's someone did like a little deep fake like thing of him and Luke, and it could work.
I think it could. Yeah. So my other idea is
and we have to cast Finn Wolfhard as Kylo Ren, young Kylo Ren.
Who's he?
The kid from Stranger Things.
There are a lot of kids from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, we've had this. I'll put it up. He's the kid with the black hair. He looks like a young Adam Driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my other idea, this one would be set after Rise of Skywalker, and it would follow Rey and her new Skywalkers or whatever the not Jedi are now. Yeah. Like, obviously, we haven't even seen this movie. We don't know how it ends.
They could all die.
But they could. But presumably, there's still going to be someone around. There's still going to be some type of Force user running around. And let's face it, the Jedi are the reason we all nerd out about Star Wars.
Lightsabers.
Yeah, lightsabers. So let's get some shows about lightsabers.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Like, I think that to add to this little pile of ideas that's kind of like that, but just in the opposite part of the timeline, I think it would be neat to see a show, if they're not already developing it or if they won't turn into a film, about the start of the Jedi Order, the original Jedi Order, like the Prime Jedi and everything, which could be like a Game of Thrones-y, maybe not that like without technology, you know?
Maybe you can answer this question. I know Legends stretches the Jedi back like thousands and thousands of years. Has the new timeline established when exactly the Jedi started?
Not really. I know that there's some questions about the old, like the stuff that happens in like KOTOR and like the Old Republic because that isn't officially canon, but they've made some characters from it canon.
Yeah. So I'm asking this to ask another question. How about a Young Yoda series?
That'd be cool. Well, I'm sure. I think so. To answer your question, he wouldn't have been. I think it stretches back further than Yoda.
Almost certainly.
So you could definitely make a Yoda origin story. They delve into that a little bit in Clone Wars. They do a 3-episode arc on him. It doesn't really talk about his origins, but it's like a Yoda-centered story. And the showrunners talked about how nervous they were to delve into that character because he's like such a sacred part of Star Wars. So that could be one of those things where if they really fuck it up, it would be really bad.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the second question is from Adam. And before I read this, we're just going to throw up a spoiler alert for the TV show Rebels. So if you haven't seen that yet and you want to, then you might want to mute us here.
Maybe we'll put up a timestamp so you can skip to after we get done with this question.
Yeah. Do you think there's a possibility Ezra and Thrawn survived their impromptu trip with the hyperspace whales? That's kind of a funny sentence to say. In the series finale, we also see Sabine and Ahsoka post-Battle of Endor meeting up to go look for Ezra. I'd personally like to see all of them return in some future media. And then, do you think Palpatine's return in The Rise of Skywalker will have anything to do with the world between worlds? I couldn't help but notice that the blue Sith magic fire we see him use in that episode looks extremely similar to the effect when he dies, quote-unquote, in Return of the Jedi. So that's the part of the basis of my speculation.
Okay. So first off, I don't know a whole bunch about Rebels, so I'm going to have to defer to you on a lot of this. I do know, as sort of meta-knowledge, that there's a new trilogy of novels about Thrawn coming out.
Yeah, the Ascendancy, Thrawn Ascendancy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know where in the timeline those happen yet, but I'm willing to bet Thrawn is not completely gone.
I don't think so either. I don't think Dave Filoni would have written the end of Rebels to be like it is. It's very open-ended. The whales jump to hyperspace with the ship.
Huh.
And then they start telling the story about how the war ended with the war with the Empire, and Ahsoka Tano shows up on Ezra's homeworld to pick up Sabine or something, and they're going to go look for him. And I don't think that they would have established that. I mean, it's like one of the last things you see in the entire show is them talking about how they're going to go find Ezra, which to me sounds like you better watch out for the sequel series to this because it's coming.
It does seem to suggest that, yeah.
And I think you're right about Thrawn too. I think that he's kind of a fan favorite. They're going to find as many ways to write his stories as possible. Now, the second question about, okay, so the world between worlds is like
super short version. It basically lets you time travel.
It's kind of the dimension between dimensions, and you can affect the past with it. And see the future.
And fuck with a time-space continuum.
Yeah. So there's an interesting point about the blue Sith magic. It does look a little bit like the blue stuff that kind of barfs out of the shafts.
Maybe we can get like some side-by-side comparisons.
Yeah, it does look a little similar. I don't think it's meant to look that similar. I'll have to take a really closer look at it. I think that would be a really good way. Because I think Palpatine's dead, right? Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things I talked about in those Jedi Paxis leaks. Because the first thing they say is that Palpatine didn't die, and that's a part of the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a way that he dies. However, I think that him being thrown down, the blue stuff was really weird. Because
Talking in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like that's not what happens when people die, right?
No, I think that's just meant to show that, holy shit, the Emperor was really fucking powerful, and now he's got this, like, magical space gas coming out of him.
Magical space gas. It'd be kind of a Voldemort thing, too, which I think maybe it's a little predictable, but I would not be upset as a Star Wars fan to go into Rise of Skywalker to see that had contained some part of his essence or something that kind of latched onto something, because we know that evil Sith dudes can do that. Monin does it with the mask and everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. In fact, I think that like if this ends up being real, I'm probably going to message this guy and buy him a beer, because that's a really good point.
I think maybe that might be it. My inclination is that he's most likely around as a ghost, just because Palpatine was really fucking powerful, and the one thing we know about like Jedi Force ghosts is that those Jedi are generally pretty powerful.
Yeah, if Qui-Gon figured out how to do it, Palpatine
might
have.
like there's an outside chance that he like inhabited a new clone body or something, but I don't think anyone wants to bring that storyline back.
They would be going
Legends.
all in on Legends, though.
Yeah. The last possibility, which just occurred to me as I was talking here, is that Palpatine himself is still dead, but there's just some like recordings of himself or like a holocron or something that
So
say
like a Battlefront 2 kind of thing.
yeah, that say Kylo Ren runs across and says, maybe I should be a Sith now.
You're my new dad.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be. I think he's in the movie, and I could be mistaken about this. I think they might have confirmed that he's like a major player in the movie. Mm-hmm. It would be the funniest shit in the world if it ended up being an imposter. All right, so last question by Cody.
Spoilers are over. You can come back now.
Last question by Cody. How can Episode 9 give a more permanent feeling ending to the saga? We thought that Episode 6 was a permanent end and that the galaxy would have peace, but it did not. So how can they show that all the darkness has actually been conquered for real this time?
So here's the thing. Endings, like happy endings, are not always forever. In fact, they're very rarely forever in real life as well as in fiction.
Especially when you have a franchise that makes a lot of money.
Yeah, like any story that ends with "and they all lived happily ever after" probably had a lazy writer. Yeah. So my thought is that you can still tie this up maybe just basically the same way Return of the Jedi did. Okay. So if Palpatine is back, kill him off. Kylo Ren either dies or gets redeemed. Doesn't really matter which. And at the very end, you have a party with the Resistance, and Rey kind of sneaks off and sees Ghost Luke sitting on a log or something, and he just kind of smiles and nods to her. She just kind of smiles and nods back, goes back to the party, roll credits.
You don't think that fans would be upset at that?
Maybe.
I would be. It feels so. If one of the criticisms was that Force Awakens was a rehash of A New Hope, that would certainly be a rehash of The Last Jedi.
If that's like the last shot of the movie and like the only thing that really resembles Return of the Jedi, I think people would allow it.
Because at that point, like it's just like the one thing that kind of rhymes with it. Okay.
Yeah, because like at that point, it's not derivative and cheap. It's a nice little nod of fan service.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not necessarily against that. I think he brings up a pretty good point about how like the marketing for the prequel trilogy when Revenge of the Sith was coming out was the story ends. And like that was how they were presenting Return of the Jedi when it was coming out. Mm-hmm. So I think that like you have to juggle between a narrative that feels like it's come to a satisfying close, but also making sure that you have an intellectual property that you can still poke for money, which is obviously what they're going to do.
It's what Disney wants for sure.
It definitely is, and that's fine for us as long as they keep making good Star Wars stories. Because then we get more Star Wars, which is cool. I guess in my idea of this, discounting the way I want the story to go, I think the feeling of an uneasy piece that's been achieved, like a delicate, like at the end of Battlestar Galactica, the new Battlestar Galactica, the newest one anyway, where there's this there's a really bittersweet end, but there is in place at the end this like really fragile piece. They could be broken at any time, you know. Anyway, let us know what you think about these questions. I think this might be a thing we do every week if we can. Go check out Star Wars Veritas. It's a really cool Facebook page, which I happen to be a mod of, so now I can control whether or not you can post on it. And then like the dozen other people that do too. So let us know in the comments if you have any other questions you'd like us to answer.
Or if you think we answered a question wrong.
Yeah, don't say that, because then my little heart, when I read those comments,
just snap in half.
Yeah, just reach out to us. Let us know what you think about these particular subjects. We, of course, also have a podcast that's on a variety of platforms that you can check out. Apple Podcasts and Google Play and Spotify and SoundCloud. And
I think those are the only 4.
Yeah. And, of course, subscribe to the channel because it'll help us get the word out a little bit and, make us famous, I guess. That's not really the whole goal of this. Anyway, we'll fix this in post.
Just always remember.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.